The more you explore the world of classic WoW, the more mysteries and unknowns you're bound to stumble across. From unfinished quests to random items and environmental details that make you wonder if there's something more to discover, taking the time to fully understand what you encounter on your leveling journey can unlock a whole new level of deep lore, which is what my channel is all about. Un'Goro Crater is a zone with plenty of primal history, an ancient jungle filled with dinosaurs, and several rare geologic features like hot springs, tar pits, and a volcano. I've talked about this zone multiple times before, from its geology to some of its key quest lines, but today I want to tackle one of these smaller mysteries here in the crater that has persisted for the last 20 years. And I hope to provide some possible explanations for another of Azeroth's unknowns. This is the mystery of the Un'Goro Threshadons in Classic WoW. As always, thank you for the fun comments and support, and with all that being said, let's get right into it. When you first descend from the harsh desert of Tanaris into Un'Goro Crater, the first NPC you'll likely run across is Torwa Pathfinder, a Tauren hunter who's willing to help you provoke one of Un'Goro's deadliest predators. Lar Corwi is the fearsome alpha of the Un'Goro Ravissors, a particularly large and deadly breed of raptor-like dinosaur that dwells in the southwestern marshlands. To draw him out into the open, Torwa instructs you to collect a piece of meat from one of Lar Corwi's recent kills, which when combined with Ravissor pheromones will form a suitable bait. You travel north into the marsh, where you find a large carcass surrounded by raptors, and once you retrieve a sample, you're free to continue the quest line and eventually eliminate Lar Corwi at his lair in the eastern foothills. It sounds simple enough, but let's back up. That carcass is important. It's not from just any creature you can find here in Un'Goro. It's specifically labeled as a fresh Threshadon carcass, which is where our mystery begins. Threshadons, known informally as threshers, are aquatic beasts found in several places on Azeroth, from the murky coasts of Darkshore and Dustwallow Marsh to the sizable lakes in Loch Medan and Red Ridge. One place they aren't found, though, is Un'Goro Crater. In the marshlands especially, where the water is shallow and the pools and channels are mostly isolated, it doesn't seem like a fitting environment for these large water-dwelling creatures. Torwa even explicitly highlights this mystery when you turn the quest in.
This will do nicely. It seems Lar Corwi eats well these days. Although, I wonder where he found a Threshadon in this area. Odd.
I really like how this singular line grounds the question within the bounds of the lore. Even an in-game character is looking at this situation and calling it unusual. It might seem weird considering every other type of dinosaur is found here in this zone, but after scouring the map and investigating the database, it's true. There are no Thresher NPCs in Un'Goro. So, we're going to have to expand our perspective if we're going to find some possible explanations. There are two parts to this mystery. Where would Threshadons live if they were here in Un'Goro Crater? And how did the carcass of one end up in the shallow marshlands? Some of my theories overlap and cover both of these questions, but I'll start with the former. As I said, the marshlands and even the main river that winds through much of the zone seem too shallow for a thresher to call home, but the western side shows a bit more promise at one area in particular, the Golakka Hot Springs. There are a series of small hot pools and geysers found here, along with a larger pool and a very large lake to the east of the central geyser. While the smaller pools might be too hot to sustain animal life, as their extreme depth seems to imply a direct route to the boiling hydrothermal system below, the larger lake is, I think, a strong contender for a thresher environment. There's abundant plant life, it has a good amount of space, and while deep, it doesn't plunge into the crust in the same way as the others, and therefore may not experience quite as much heating. There's an argument to be made about the main river being more substantial than it's depicted in-game, sure, but it's really shallow in most places and you can't even really swim down it, making it seem to me more like a marshy stream, and I think the lake remains the most promising option. Which brings us to the second part of the story. How did the carcass of a thresher potentially get all the way from here to here? Also, I should probably mention this now, it's not the only one. This anomaly is one of two that exists in the crater. The other is found in the southwest at Terror Run, another discarded Threshadon a long way from water. If we were dealing with just one of these cases, maybe we could dismiss it as a random developer choice, or even an oversight, but 2 seems deliberate, a pattern worthy of analysis. Originally, I thought we could tie in a concept from the popular Lincoln quest line I discussed a few weeks ago. The wrecked raft we find in the marshlands implies the water level is not constant. Perhaps during a season of heavy flooding, a Threshadon was able to migrate between bodies of water before ending up stranded here in the marsh. This is still possible, but it doesn't explain how the second carcass ended up in Terror Run, which is devoid of any water. We could reach a similar conclusion by introducing some sort of subterranean element to the so-called plumbing system of Un'Goro. Maybe the complex hydrologic and geologic processes that have shaped this region have created underground networks that link some of these separate bodies of water. This actually lines up pretty well with some other examples of subterranean threshers we find in-game, from the Wailing Caverns to Black Fathom Deeps. Thresher number 1 could have picked the wrong time to surface here in the marsh and was caught by the raptors, but this interpretation also fails to address the other carcass. Allow me to introduce my final and most complete theory. Maybe the 2 threshers did dwell in the Western Lake, but something powerful was able to snag one, then both of them, hauling the carcasses away after the takedowns. The Ravissors, which are capable of hunting in packs, may be powerful enough to coordinate some type of amphibious assault, but I find this to be unlikely, and they've only ever been known to hunt in the east. The lizard-like Stegodons of Terror Run, while formidable foes, are also known to be herbivores, so they're unlikely to be going after threshers in the first place. I think the only predator capable of hunting a fully grown Threshadon is the king of this jungle, the towering Devilsaur of Un'Goro. These brutes are massive, resembling a T-Rex of sorts, and are undoubtedly the apex carnivores in this zone. Nearly all varieties of Devilsaur patrol through vast areas of the zone, including right next to the giant lake, putting them in the right place to hunt aquatic prey, should it be unlucky enough to cross one of these tyrants. I think this theory is pretty compelling, and it also creates an interesting layer of depth when it comes to the Lar Corwi questline. This theory would suggest the carcass isn't actually one of Lar Corwi's prized kills, but was instead pillaged from one of the Devilsaur by the squad of raptors, a second-hand score that Torwa later interprets as one of the Ravissor's own. If you're still on the fence about the Devilsaur theory, let's refer back to Thresher number 2 in the southwest, where we find, I'm not even kidding, decorative objects on the ground called T-Rex footprints. And yeah, the only place they're used in all of Un'Goro is right here, in the area immediately surrounding and leading to and from this carcass, all but confirming the identity of our predator is one or more of the Devilsaur. It's unknown if these 2 threshers were the only 2 left in the crater and they're now extinct, or there are perhaps others that have yet to be depicted in-game, but either way, it's an interesting note to end on today. Bits and pieces of some of the other theories could still be accurate, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts down in the comments. But in my opinion, how Lar Corwi was able to find and slay one of these elusive threshers is that he didn't, instead rallying his pack to perhaps steal a carcass from an even more impressive, though albeit solo, predator here in the jungle. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this investigation into a niche aspect of one of WoW's most unique zones, and maybe next time you're leveling an Un'Goro crater, you'll think about this quest in a whole new way. Maybe I'll even make a follow-up video someday covering more details or secrets regarding the dinosaur species of Azeroth. They're a rather savage and unique part of the game's bestiary. A special thank you to my channel members who provide bonus support for these videos, and until next time, may the Force be with you.